Hi, hello! In this video I'll be showing you how to make this split colour sweater vest. It's super beginner friendly, but leave me any questions that you might have in the comments and I will get back to you. For this project I used two different colours of 12 ply yarn as well as a 6mm hook, a 5mm hook, some scissors and a darning needle. You could definitely do this project with different ply of yarn. You just want to make sure that the two colours that you choose are the same. Okay, so to start off we're going to need to make a slip knot in our first colour of yarn. I'm also using my 6mm hook. If you're using different yarn size or hook size to me, you'll just need to use the larger of your two hooks. So we'll make the slip knot and insert our larger hook. Now you're going to chain up 23. Okay, so now we have 23 chains. We're going to block off that last chain, chain up one more time, so you'll have 24 in total, and we're going to do a slip stitch into that chain that we blocked off. So the second chain from the hook, you're just going to insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through again. So we're just going to continue going all the way down, doing slip stitches. And now I'm just doing my last slip stitch. So in total you should have done 23 slip stitches. Now we're going to chain up one, turn our work, and now we're going to start working into the back loop only. So you can see here there's a little V. This one closest to your body is the front loop, this one is the back loop. So you're just going to insert into the back loop, yarn over, pull through, and pull through again. And now we're just going to continue going all the way down doing back loop slip stitches. This is going to be the main stitch that we use and the only stitch that we use for this body portion. So you can just continue doing back loop slip stitches all the way down, and then you're going to need to do 4 more rows. So we're going to have 6 rows of slip stitches in total in this section. I'm already doing my second one now, so when I finish this one I'm going to do 4 more and then join back in on the video. Okay, so now I've just finished my 6th row of back loop slip stitches. So I'm going to chain up 1 and turn my work, and now I'm going to do another row of back loop slip stitches, but we're going to do an increase when we get to the other end. So just continue this row as normal until you get to the other end. Okay, so now I'm just doing my last back loop slip stitch. And now instead of chaining up 1, we're going to chain up 2. So 1, 2, and then turn our work. And now we're going to skip that first chain as usual, but we're going to do a slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. So you'll essentially be adding on 1 extra stitch to this row. So then you're going to continue on going down, doing your back loop slip stitches as normal, but this row will have 24 stitches instead of 23. So you're just going to continue going down. When you get to the end, turn around and come back up to the top, and I will show you this one more time before we continue on. Okay, so now I've come all the way back up to the top here, and I'm just going to do my last 2 slip stitches. And now we're going to do the same thing we did last time and do 2 chains. So chain up 2, turn our work, and do a slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. So adding 1 more stitch to this row. And now you're just going to continue doing your back loop slip stitches as normal. So this section with the increases is going to be 10 rows in total. I'm currently doing my 4th row, so I'm going to do 6 more rows, or it'll be 5 rows with the increase, because we don't do an increase going down, only going up. So just complete off your next 6 rows after you finish this one, or 10 in total, and then meet back and we'll continue on. Okay, so I've just finished my 10th row in this increase section, and we've ended up at the bottom. So I'm going to do my chain 1, turn my work, and go all the way back up as normal, but we're going to create our shoulder chunk at the end of this row. So just finish off this row and then we will continue on with the shoulder chunk. Okay, so now I'm just doing my last back loop slip stitch. And now we're going to start on our shoulder chunk, so I'm going to do a chain up of 30. Okay, now I've done 30 chains, so I'm going to block off that last chain and do 1 more chain. So we'll have 31 in total. And I'm going to skip that first chain, and into the second chain from the hook I'm going to do my back loop slip stitch, or because it's going into the chain it's just a slip stitch this time, but I'm going to do my slip stitch row as we normally do, but I'm going to go all the way down to where the chain joins, and then if you're not sure what to do, stay tuned and I will show you how to do that. Otherwise you can just continue all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so now we've slip stitched into all our chains and we're back at the underarm portion. And so what you want to make sure is check that this isn't twisted. You want it to be flat coming into that body part so that you don't twist it around. So now we're going to do back loop slip stitches as normal, and we'll just continue all the way down to the end of this row as normal. Okay, and now I've reached the end of this row, so I'm going to chain up 1, turn my work, and I'm going to do a back loop slip stitch going all the way up to the top of the shoulder. So this will be doing exactly what we've done in this section with our back loop slip stitches, but we're not going to do any increases or decreases. We're going to do 7 rows in total for this section. So I've done the first one, so now I'm going to do 6 more back loop slip stitch rows with no increases or decreases, so just like we did at the start, and then we'll join back in once you've got 7 in total in this section. So just go ahead and do that. If you're not sure how to do it without the increases or decreases, just check what you did here. Okay, so now I've finished doing my 7 rows of back loop slip stitch for this shoulder portion. I'm just jumping in here because I forgot to explain it at the time, but everything up until this point is identical for the front panels and the back panel. So when you're doing the front panel, you'll come up to this point and then join in the video here to watch how to do the neckline portion. And if you're doing your back panel, you'll do everything you've done already for the front panel up until here, and then jump ahead to the back portion and I will put a link in, but this shoulder and underarm section is identical for both. Back to the video. And we've ended up at the bottom. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start decreasing this section to make a neckline. So what you're going to need to do is complete this row of back loop slip stitches as normal, but when we get to the end, we're going to leave the last 4 stitches free, and I'll show you what to do when we get there. So just continue up this row until you get close to the end. Okay, so now I've got 6 stitches left. I'm just doing my last 2 back loop slip stitches. So now you can see I have 4 stitches remaining until I get to the end of this row. So I'm going to do 2 stitch 2s together. So I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to go straight into that next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through both of the loops on the hook. So I've just done a decrease into those 2 stitches, and I'm going to do one more decrease. So the same thing, and then pull through those last 2 stitches on the hook, and then I'm going to chain up 1, turn my work, and I'm going to do one more decrease. So insert, yarn over, pull through, insert, yarn over, pull through, and pull through 2. So now we've done a total of 3 decreases, 2 going on the way up and 1 going on the way back, and I'm just going to continue as normal doing my back loop slip stitches going all the way down to the end. So that's going to be the repeating pattern for this neck V-neck portion. So on the way up, you're going to stitch 2 together for 2 of the stitches. So for the final 4, you're going to do 2 together and 2 together, and then on the way back, you're just going to do that once. So continue doing that. I'm going to finish off this row, come back up to the top, and I will show you one more time in case you want to see it again. Otherwise, you can keep going until you've gone as far down as you want for your neck portion. Okay, so now I've made it all the way back up to the end, and I've just got my 4 stitches remaining. So I'm going to do 2 decreases. So into that first one, yarn over, into the second, yarn over, pull through both loops, and we'll do that one more time. And now I'm going to chain up 1, turn my work, and do 1 decrease into the next 2 stitches. And now I'm going to continue the rest of the row as normal with my back loop slip stitches. So you just need to continue doing this until you have a V-neck that is the size that you want it to be, so it should come to the middle of your sternum. And once you've reached the end, we will meet back here. Okay, so now you should have finished the decreases to make your neckline, and I have 31 rows in total. So if you're making a small as well, you can finish your 31 rows. And now we're going to get started on the back panel. Just a reminder to go back to the start of the video and do the underarm and shoulder chunk portions that we did for the front panel, as it's identical to the back panel, and then continue on from here. Now that you've finished your 7 rows of half double crochets, so we're not counting that first chain row, so you should have 7, and this one here being the 8th. If you've only done 7, go ahead and come back up to meet at the top, because we're going to start decreasing. So for this, I'm just going to do the last 2 stitches, and now into those last 2 stitches, you're going to want to do a decrease. So insert your hook into the first one, yarn over, pull through, and then straight into the second one, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through both stitches on your hook. And then we're going to turn around and we're going to do another decrease. So same thing, insert, yarn over, pull through, insert, yarn over, pull through 2. And now you're just going to continue going back down that line all the way to the end, and then come back up the other side, and we'll do one more decrease. Now that you've reached back up to the top again, we're going to do another lot of decreases. So into those last 2 stitches, we're going to stitch 2 together, and then chain up 1, turn our work, and then stitch 2 together again. Now just continue going down the row like normal with back loop slip stitches. Now that you've finished coming all the way back up on that row, we've got our 2 previous rows of decrease, and now we're just going to do a regular row, and we're not going to decrease this time. So I'm just doing my last slip stitches as normal, chain 1, turn our work, no decreases, And you're just going to keep doing this until you've finished going all the way along your back portion until we're going to do the next shoulder portion. So you just keep going back up and down with no increases or decreases until you reach the other end. Okay, so now you should have finished your 43 rows of back loop slip stitches. So we've got, from this flat section here, I've done 43 rows. If you're doing a different size and you ended up with a different number, just make sure that you come back up to the top before you start this next bit, because we're going to do some increases to match this shoulder chunk on the other side. So because we did a decrease both going up and going down in the rows, we're going to need to add an extra 2 stitches to this row. So I'm going to chain up 3. So 1, 2, 3, turn our work, and now I'm going to block off that first stitch, and into this second stitch from the hook I'm going to do my back loop slip stitch, or because it's going into a chain it's just a regular slip stitch, and then another slip stitch into the chain, and then now we're back in the body, so we're just going to go into our back loop slip stitches. And you're just going to continue doing back loop slip stitches all the way down as normal. Turn around, come back up to the top, and we're going to do this same increase one more time. Okay, so now we're back up at the top of this row. So I'm just going to finish my last 2 back loop slip stitches. That one's a bit tight. And now I'm going to chain up 3 like I did in the last row. And turn our work. Okay, so now we're going to block off that first stitch and do a slip stitch into every stitch, going all the way back down, and then come back up to this point again, and we're going to go straight without doing any increases or decreases to finish off that shoulder chunk. So join me back up at the top to start the next section. So now we're back up to the top of that row. I'm going to do my last 2 slip stitches, and now I'm going to just chain up 1 like normal, turn my work, and continue with back loop slip stitches going all the way down as normal. So now you're just going to keep going without doing any increases or decreases to finish off the shoulder chunk. So to make it the same as the other side, you're going to need to do 7 rows without any increases or decreases. This row that I'm doing now going down is 1 of 7, so I'm going to do 6 more after I finish this row, and we're going to then move on to the underarm portion. So join back once you've finished your shoulder chunk. Okay, so now we're back. You should have completed the rest of your shoulder chunk, so you should have 7 rows there, and the 7 rows will leave you to end up at the bottom down here. So if you end up at the top, if you're doing a different size or you're altering the pattern and you end up at the top, you can either choose to come down one more time to meet at the bottom. Because they're such tiny rows, it shouldn't make too much of a difference. Otherwise you can cut and tie and then join in at the point where we're going to crochet up to. So it's up to you what you want to do. So what we're going to do next is count 60 stitches from the top, because over here we've got 60 stitches between the top and the underarm portion. So we're going to count 60 stitches and put in a stitch marker. So now you found the 30th stitch. You're going to insert your stitch marker, and now I'm just going to check that that's equal with the other side. And yep, the stitch marker is exactly where the underarm portion is. So now I'm going to do my my back loop slip stitches up until I get to the stitch marker. Okay, so now you can see I've got one stitch left before I get to the stitch marker. So I'm just going to do my last stitch into there, and then I'm going to chain up one, turn my work, and now I'm going to do a decrease into the next two stitches. So you're going to go into the back loop of the first stitch, straight into the back loop of the second stitch, and then pull through both loops on the hook. And now I'm just going to continue going down with one back loop slip stitch into every stitch as normal. This is going to be the repeating pattern for the next, well, it'll be 10 rows in total, but after this row we'll be doing 8 more rows. So join us back at the top again, and we'll go over it one more time, and then we can do the rest of this section. Okay, so now we're back at the top of this row, and I've got 2 stitches left, and I'm not going to do a decrease here. I'm only going to do the decreases going down. So you'll only be doing the decrease on every second row. So I'm going to go ahead and do the last 2 stitches, chain up one, turn my work, and now we're going to do the decrease into the next 2. So insert into that first, straight into the second, and pull through. So that's going to be the repeating pattern now, to do no creases on the way, no decreases on the way up, only decreases on the way back, and you need to do 10 rows in total. So you can see we've already done 3, and then this is the 4th one that I'm doing now. So after I finish this row, I'm just going to need to do another 6 or 3 of each, and then we're going to come back together to do the very last section. Okay, so now you should have finished your 10 rows with the decreases on every second row. Now we're into the final stretch, and we're just going to do 6 rows with no increases or decreases to finish it off. So just like this section, it's going to be flat at the top, so you're just going to do 6 rows with no increases or decreases. I will go up this row and show you once, and then you can continue on for the rest of the 6 rows. So now we're at the end, and there's 2 stitches left. So we're just going to do our regular stitches, chain up one, turn, and 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch going all the way down. So this is the first 2 rows. You're just going to do 4 more rows, and then you've finished the back portion. So just keep going until you've finished 6 rows in total with no increases or decreases. Now that you've finished your 6 rows with no increases or decreases, that's it for this portion, back portion of the vest. So you can go ahead and cut off your yarn, and we'll get started on the trim. Okay, so now you should have finished your back panel and your 2 front panels. So we are going to join them together. So you just want to grab your back panel and then lay each of your front panels over the top of it, and line up the edges and line up the shoulder chunk. And I'll grab my other side. And so now you're going to need to stitch each of the shoulders, both of the sides and the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch them together now. Okay, so I have my 2 front panels here. Just move the back one out of the way for now. So you're just going to want to line up all of your stitches, and you can use a darning needle and stitch through it just like you would hand tack something, which I will probably do for the shoulders. But for this front panel, I'm going to do slip stitches to join. So what you're going to need to do is put the loop on your hook and then insert it through the front panel, and then insert through the stitches in the back panel, yarn over, pull through and pull through again. So that's it to do these slip stitches. So you're just going to go in through the panel closest to you, through both of those stitches, in through the panel furthest away from you, yarn over, pull through again. So now I'm just going to go ahead and finish doing this to the middle, and I'm going to finish doing it to the sides, and then I will sew together the shoulder portions, and I will show you a clip of that just in case you want to see, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get to the end, do a chain up of 1, and you can then cut your excess yarn. Okay, so this is just if you want to see how to stitch the two halves together with a darning needle. If you don't want to see this, just skip ahead. So just what you're going to need to do is, it's a bit easier going along the sides because there's actual stitches there. This is just the top of the rows, so you kind of have to just work out the best place to put your hook. But I'm just going to go line it up, go through both sides, pull my yarn through, oops, go through both sides and tie a knot. And I'll be weaving in the ends later, so you don't need to worry about that right now. So tie a double knot. Now I'm just going to go similar to what we did before, but I'm just going to go in through each side, make sure I'm going through both layers of the shoulder portion. And you just weave it through just like that, super easy, probably easier than doing the slip stitches, and it also uses less yarn. So if you're running out of yarn, I would recommend doing it this way instead of doing the slip stitch way, but just depends what you prefer. And doing my last one, I'm just going to do one more to make sure it's nice and secure at the corner, and I'm going to pull a loop, and before I pull it all the way through, I'm going to push it, put the needle back through to make it a little knot, just like that. Cool, and then you can cut it off. So now you should have your vest completely connected, and you can go ahead and turn it in the right way. And I would also advise trying it on before you go and attach all the trim, just to make sure it all fits and it's all okay. Don't know if you can see that. Okay, now we are going to get started on the trim that will go around the neckline, around the bottom and around the arms. So this is where you swap over to your smaller hook. In my case, I'm using a 5mm hook, but if you're using different yarn size, just use a hook that's gonna make it slightly tighter weave than the body. So to start, we're going to do a slip knot, insert our hook, and we're going to chain up 2. So 1, 2, Now I'm going to do a single crochet into that first chain that we did, so the second chain from the hook. So skip that first one and we're going to do a single crochet. Now I'm going to chain up one, turn my work, and into where we did that first single crochet, which is here, we're going to do a back loop single crochet, and we're going to do 2 of them into this same stitch. So insert into the back loop only, single crochet, and then back into that exact same loop, another single crochet. Okay, now we're going to chain up 1, turn our work, and now into that second stitch that we did. So we're skipping this first one because that's the chain. So into this stitch here, we're going to do 2 more single crochets. So insert into the back loop only, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. And now we're just going to do 1 single crochet into that second loop. So now you can see we've got 3 stitches going across here. We're building up to 5. So now we're going to do a chain, turn our work, and now into the first 2 we're just going to do 1 single crochet, 1 there, and 1 into the next back loop. And now into this third single crochet here, we're going to do 2 back loop single crochets. So this is adding, so we have 4 stitches across. Now we're going to chain up 1, turn our work, and into that first stitch excluding the chain, so the second stitch from the hook, we're going to do 2 back loop single crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, and now into the last 3 we're just going to do 1 single crochet, 2, and the last one. So now you can see we've got a bit of a V going, or a slant. So now we're going to chain up 1 and turn our work, and we've reached 5 crochets. So you can see there's 5 loops. So now we're just going to put 1 single crochet into each of the 5 loops, and we're going to keep the width of this trim at 5. So we're not going to do any more increases or decreases until we get to the end of either the arm trim or the neck trim. The trim that goes around the bottom of the vest will be flat, so we won't have to do this V slant. So now I'm going to chain up 1, turn my work again, and just put 1 single crochet into each back loop. So this is all we have to do now, our 5 single crochets, and you're just going to make this so that it can reach all the way around your armpit or halfway around your neck, and then we're going to do some decreases on the other side to match this. But I will come back in a second and tell you how many rows you need to do for each of the arm sections and the neck sections, and then we can work on doing the decreases. So if you want to skip ahead to that, you can. Otherwise, I will show you all of the trim pieces that will go around the arms and the neck. So just keep doing your 5 single crochets into every row until it's big enough. Okay, so these are what you will need for the neck portion and the arm portion of the trim. So you should have 1 in each color in each of these lengths. So this one is 43 rows in total, and that's for the neck. And this one is 57 rows in total, and that's for the arm trim. So you need 1 of each color in each. I'm going to now show you how to finish off the V at the other end of the trim, and it's the same for both. So you do exactly the same thing, you just have 43 rows and 57 rows. So here is my other neck portion. You can see it's the same length as this one here. So once you get up to your 5th last row, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the first 3 stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and now into the next 2 stitches we're going to do a decrease. So insert yarn over, insert yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So that's our first decrease, so now we should have 4 stitches going across here. Now for the next row we want to make it 3 stitches, so we're going to decrease again straight away, insert yarn over, pull through all 3, and then a single crochet into the next 2 stitches. Now we're going to chain up 1, turn our work, we're going to do a single crochet into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, and a decrease into the next 2 stitches. So we'll join those 2 together. Now we're going to yarn over, turn our work, and we're going to do a decrease into the last 2 stitches to make it 1. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. Now chain up 1, and I like to do a slip stitch into this last stitch just to close it off. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through again, and then you can pull and cut your work. Now we are going to stitch these onto the body of our vest. I'm going to be using a darning needle because that uses the least yarn, but you can also do the slip stitch method like we did earlier. Okay, so now you can see I've got the V of the neck here, and I'm going to line it up so that the brown one goes on the grey side and the grey side goes on the brown. And you can use stitch markers here if you have them, it'll probably make it a little bit easier, but if you don't have them you can use bobby pins, or you can just try to stretch it out so that it lines up. So I'm going to put my stitch marker through that center stitch and then through the end here to hold it down. And now you want to make sure that your slant is going into the middle, because we're going to join up the 2 slants together to make a V. So you don't want it to be facing this way because that would make it go this way. You want it to be facing this way. And so now I'm going to find the middle point of the back panel. You can count it, or you can just stretch it out and match up the rows, which I prefer to do. So I'm going to put a stitch marker in that center stitch there so I can keep track of it. And now I'm going to put a stitch marker through this and into the middle of the back panel to hold it there. This is just to make sure that it's being stretched evenly when it goes around, when you stitch it around. Okay, so now that's done. You can put one more in the shoulder if you want to. That one's optional. And now I'm going to do the same with the grey side. So you can see here it makes a V. And we're going to stitch that together. The stitch markers don't have to be perfect. You can line it up properly when you're stitching it. So I left a nice long train on this one, but if you haven't left a train, just cut a piece of yarn that goes all the way around here and then some. So this looks weird right now because it's like that, but we're actually going to pull it together and stitch it together. But I'll do that at the end. So first, I'm just going to stitch down the grey side. So where is that middle one there? And you just make sure you go through both parts of the vest, and it's pretty easy to just stitch them together. I'm stitching from the inside so that the outside will stay looking nicer. But it's as simple as that. So just keep going all the way around, and don't worry about this part yet, we're going to do that at the end. Go all the way around until you get back up to the top. Okay, so now you should have stitched on your collar. We're going to stitch the two V's together. So I'm going to use this tail, but grab another piece of yarn if you don't have any tails that are long enough. And you're just going to line them up, and you're going to stitch up until you get to where there's 5. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches in this row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to stitch up until we've got 5 stitches to make it the same level as all the other parts of the collar. So now it should be sitting like that, and you can just cut and tie this yarn. Alright, now you've got to do the same to this part, so just grab some yarn and stitch it up until the point where they meet, just here. And then we're going to get started on the arms. I've already done one of the arms, and I'm going to show you how to stitch on the other arm. Okay, so now you're going to take your arm trim portion, which is the one that is 57 rows in length, and we're going to do basically the same thing that we did to the neckline. We're going to stitch on this underarm portion with the V facing up, so not like this, and we're going to go all the way around the arm and back down the other side. And once we've stitched it on, we're going to stitch these two portions together so that it's not bulky under your arm. So I'm going to join on with my darning needle. And you can use stitch markers for this one again as well. So just put a stitch marker halfway down, connecting it to the top. To make sure that it's not bunchy on one side and stretched on the other. You want it to be even on both sides. So fold that in half. Alright, and now just stitch this together like we did for the neckline, and then come back at the end and I will stitch the two V's together. Okay, so now I've finished stitching on the arm of this side. So you just line up the V portions like we did for the front and stitch it all the way up until you get to 5 stitches going down. Stitch it up to here when we first get to the 5 stitches. Alright, I'm going to do an extra stitch and weave in my yarn. And then you can cut off your excess yarn, and that is your arm portion done. Now because we've done it like this, it's going to sit flat under your armpit, it's not going to stick out. So now that's the top part all done, we're going to go ahead and stitch on the bottom part. So I'll start off by going through how to do the ribbing for the bottom. So now we are going to get started on doing the trim for the bottom of the vest. So to start, we're going to take our yarn, make a slip knot, insert your 5mm hook or the smaller of your 2 hooks, and we're going to start by chaining up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to block off that last chain, chain up one more time, and we're going to insert into that chain that we blocked off, so the second chain from the hook. And we're going to do a single crochet. So insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Do that again, insert, yarn over, pull through 2. Now just continue going all the way down until you have a total of 5 single crochets. And now that we've reached the end, we're going to chain up 1, turn our work, and now we're going to go into the back loop only. So again, this front one is the front loop, the one closest to your body. So this is the back loop over here. I'm going to insert into the back loop only and do a single crochet. Now this is all you have to do for the trim to go around the bottom of the vest. You're just going to keep doing rows of back loop single crochets. So chain up 1, turn, and more back loop single crochets. So just keep going until you've done enough to reach a quarter of a way around your waist with one color and 3/4 of the way around your waist with the other color. I will come back and tell you exactly how many rows I did of each color when I'm done. So just go ahead and jump to that part. Alright, so once you've done 75 rows in your first color, you can move on to your second color, and you're going to do 25 rows in your second color. So you can see there, this one is 3 times as long as this one. So we've got 75 rows, 25 rows. This is going to be stitched together and stitch around the bottom of your vest, with the brown section going to the front panel, which is grey. So we're going to put the brown section here, and then we're going to put the grey section here and run that all the way around the back. You could do the opposite way. You could have brown and bring that all the way around the back because the back panel is grey, but I wanted the back to have just solid grey at the bottom. So now you're just going to stitch them on with a darning needle, just like you did for the arms and the neck, but this bit is a bit less complicated because it's all just in straight lines. So go ahead and stitch that on with a darning needle, or use the slip stitch technique that we used to join the fronts together. And that's it, then you've finished your vest.